Possibly going to get fired for appearance and grooming due to a stain on my skin. I am not OOP. OOP is you, mescaline babies. Originally posted to our anti-work. Possibly going to get fired for appearance and grooming due to a stain on my skin. Trigger warnings. Possible hostile workplace. Potential discrimination. Less than. And NBSP. Original post November 22, 2023. Literally don't know where else to go, but I work night shift at a hotel. When I first got hired, I had multiple facial piercings and a funky way of dressing and doing my hair. They originally wanted me to be clean cut, but after some back and forth they've let me keep my piercings in, so as long as I dress business casual. Fair. So I wear plain button-ups and pencil skirts with tights. No biggie. At one point I had dyed my hair black, and the dye I used changed their formula, so it stained my skin like crazy. I soaked my hands in hot water for almost 20 minutes. Tried dish soap. Tried rubbing alcohol. Still stained. Whatever. I go into work and a girl that had recently been promoted to manager 1 month ago saw and was like, "Oh, can you get that off your skin?" And I said no and demonstrated using hand sanitizer to show that it was deeply stained. We kinda laughed it off and she was like, "Okay, well, next time don't do that before work." Fair. That was about 2 weeks ago, and today in my email I see I'm being called in for a performance review meeting. And attached is a final warning, meaning any further action is termination due to violating dress code. The only infraction that's listed under examples of violation: hair dye stains on hands and arms. The email discussed how they're going to proceed further with my employment. I'm literally gagged. I can't believe this. This is the only time I've ever gotten a warning here, verbal or written. I almost feel like crying. A final warning over accidental dye stains that I can't remove. Plus I work night shift. No one barely sees me. I'm at a loss over what to do. I looked over the handbook and it does say we have to be well groomed, but I've never called out. Barely ever late. Always do the work before it's due, and I get great reviews from guests. I'm actually heartbroken. I work a position that no one wants to work. Has something like this happened to anyone else? What do I do? And NBSP. Relevant comments. Mama's Golden Milk. First thing you need to do is print out or forward that email to yourself. You should look in the handbook for how they handle disciplinary actions to see if they skipped steps. I did look at the handbook and there are 2 skipped steps. First step is a verbal warning that is noted in employee file, and second step is a first written warning. The warning I was sent was the 3rd step, which is final warning. I work in an at-will employment state, so technically they could just fire me without any of this, but the fact that there are skipped steps is adding to my confusion. Walk through this. It's likely something that they are not really allowed disapprove of. I would avoid taking this tack. I would stick to the "this was an injury, not a fashion choice." Treat the staining of your skin for what it is. An injury. You did not intend to stain your skin. An accident caused something to happen to your body that you did not wish, and now there is an unwelcome visual indicator of that accident. Just because it doesn't hurt does not mean that it's not an injury. If they press, ask if you can have sick leave until it clears up, because they're suggesting that you can't do your job with this condition. But emphasize that this is no more your choice than a car accident or a fall down the stairs. The condition cleared up within 1 day. The incident where I came in with stained skin was over 2 weeks ago and only lasted 1 shift. It technically could count as an injury or allergic reaction, but the fact that I'm being written up over 2 weeks later for this is concerning. And NBSP. Update November 22, 2023. Same day. 13 hours later. Edit No. 2. Thank you everyone for the feedback. I did do some research, and with labor laws taken into account, this is not a violation of labor laws, although it does appear that my employers are taking advantage of vagueness around employee rights laws. I won't be pursuing this legally, however, this is something I am still considering bringing to the Labor Board along with other things discussed in the meetings I won't be disclosing here. And to address one final thing, I'm not Pentecostal. Me not owning or wearing pants isn't for religious reasons, and my work knew this prior to creating this rule. It looks like everyone that said that this was a new manager making an attempt to throw weight around as well as use me as an example is correct. I'm not quitting my job. I'm going to search for a new one until they fire me, since it seems like eventually they're going to head in this direction. Oh well. So a few hours ago I got out of the meeting. I did read as many comments as possible and listen to everyone's opinions. I promised an update soon. I get to the meeting, and despite all the listed issues only regarding hair dye stains, sure enough it was a laundry list of problems they had for me. The meeting consisted of 2 mid-level managers, 1 recently promoted. I was basically not able to plead my case at all in this meeting, and I was talked over if I tried. They called it a performance review, and when I asked for further clarification on whether or not this was a disciplinary meeting, it went unanswered. In the meeting they told me that the hair dye stains, despite being accidental and lasting only 1 day, had caused them to review the dress code and what they deemed appropriate. Because, as you guys pointed out, the dress code was extremely vague. No hair dye stains were added to the list, however they made a few other changes that they fully admitted were done solely because of me. The big change they've made to the dress code is no skirts. No skirts at all. Not knee length. Ankle length. None. I am currently the only employee that chooses to wear skirts, and upon me being hired I double checked that would be okay. I've never received a verbal warning or write-up for my skirts. I asked if it was because of length, as I usually go for just above the knee, however it's not outlined in the dress code, and they did not specify and went forth in banning skirts despite me being the only person that wears them. I don't own pants and informed them of this. They essentially said get some and told me they'd be providing me with a future uniform credit. They didn't even give me a write-up or make me sign anything, but they did attempt to make me sign the new uniform agreement, which I did not do because I don't own pants and I don't want to sign an agreement saying I have to wear them. This just seems ridiculous to me. Especially since when I was called in for the meeting I was supposed to be getting a final warning write-up that I was never given. I also want to note that in this meeting they told me I would no longer be allowed to eat at the front desk. However, on my shift I am not permitted to clock out to take a 30-minute break, nor do I have anyone to cover me at the desk to step away to eat. They kinda said it last minute, so I wasn't able to process it. All in all, I'm confused. What they called me in for doesn't track with what the meeting ended up focusing on. And while not being fired is awesome, the way I was treated during this meeting made me feel horrible and like I did something wrong. I even asked about my performance work-wise during the meeting and they had no complaints. What's going to happen to me if I don't wear pants? Is it legal for them to force me to wear pants and not eat for 8 hours? Help y'all. And NBSP. This is a repost sub. I am not oop. I also want to note that in this meeting they told me I would no longer be allowed to eat at the front desk. However, on my shift I am not permitted to clock out to take a 30-minute break, nor do I have anyone to cover me at the desk to step away to eat. They kinda said it last minute, so I wasn't able to process it. Feels like it's time to get some proper advice from a qualified legal professional. Saying no skirts would be an issue for women in several religions. I doubt that would hold up if someone sued. And saying she can't take a lunch break is likely illegal. Op should consider looking for new work cause with the way this place is behaving and all. It's pretty clear they want Op to quit to not file for unemployment. This place seems like garbage and their attitudes isn't making things better. Yep, definitively a thinly veiled quiet firing. Start looking for a new job. Op, just to be safe. Also get some advices on how to frick them legally, if possible. I petition we rename this subredditor updates, because there's absolutely zero best of anymore. I had a job try 3 times to give me disciplinary action over the uniform appearance policy. First time involved my piercings. The only ones I have are in my ears. I have more than 2. The policy stated that facial piercings were the big no-no. Nothing about how many earrings you could wear or what kind. Hoops, studs and so forth. They tired to tell me I had too many, even though I had a coworker with way more than I had. So the new policy stated that you could only wear a single pair of understated earrings. My multi-pierced coworker was not happy about that, but for some reason they never bugged her about it. Second time. Hair dye. I had strawberry blonde hair. I dyed it auburn. Policy said, no unnatural hair colors. I had to waste 20 freaking minutes of my life explaining what freaking color auburn is. Then my bleach blonde supervisor with black eyebrows and 3 weeks worth of dark roots tried to tell me that the spirit of the policy was that I wasn't allowed to have any hair colors apart from my natural color. I stared at her and then just walked away. Third time. Cutting my hair. I shave my head in the summer. I had already worked there 2 years when they decided to start having an issue with this, so it's not like I hadn't done it before. They didn't even try to find anything in the policy that said I couldn't be bald. Just claimed there were complaints. The kicker behind all this? This wasn't some uber buttoned up corporate environment. It was a freaking convenience store. Half my coworkers were high if they showed up at all, and the person who trained me had visible track marks. But apparently my earrings and shaved head was just too much. I'm reminded of when I worked at a place and wanted to dye my hair pink. It required my hair to be bleached. I confirmed with my manager that it was okay and checked the handbook for it. Nada. So I did, and our HR manager hated it. Tried to say I had to change it and then looked at the handbook. Emailed everyone and said she'd added an amendment to it to include no unnatural hair colors. I didn't sign. My manager backed me up. Eventually she threw such a stink that after about 6 weeks my manager asked if I'd dye it back. He apologized many times. I shaved it off instead. She couldn't say a word, but she was furious. It still makes me smile, and it's been years. That HR manager was later fired for adding amendments into the handbook that weren't legal as well. Op, you're going to be called in for more performance reviews or whatever they want to call their witch hunt. You need to find out what your rights are as far as having a witness present or a recording device. During those meetings, management is bringing in 23 witnesses to swear what was said. And it's their word against yours. You need to have someone in there who can back up your side. They're going to fire you. Go ahead and get a lawyer if you can afford one. I want to know, when did people stop wearing gloves to dye their hair? Pro tip: if you ever get dye stains on your skin, use something either heavily emollient, which will help you get rid of the top layer of skin, or use a coarse file lightly, will also help you get rid of the top layer of skin. Also, the instant a job starts needling you about your appearance, you either need to change your appearance or look for a new job. HR professional here. You really should consult with an employment attorney. Not being allowed to take your break is a clear violation of meal break laws, and in CA you actually need to be compensated for the missed meal breaks. So many factors here. Do they have a timekeeping system where you clock in and out? Does that system show that you have not been taking lunches? Are you an hourly employee or salaried? Are you full-time or part-time? I would send a follow-up email to the 2 middle managers who told you were being put on a PIP, and get confirmation that they are placing you on a PIP due to dress code, and ask how that ties into a performance issue when the handbook itself was vague. CCHR. Whatever you do, make sure to get documentation for everything. Emails, texts, and if they're verbal conversations, email them afterwards recapping the conversation and make your stance very clear. But also, what kind of work do you do? Do skirts make the job not possible? The fact that they're being so vague is a huge red flag, especially if they're claiming you're on a PIP, but won't provide clarity. However, on my shift I am not permitted to clock out to take a 30-minute break, nor do I have anyone to cover me at the desk to step away to eat. They kinda said it last minute, so I wasn't able to process it. Isn't this potentially illegal? I thought employers were mandated in most countries to allow for lunch breaks. The OOP needs to leave this job. They sound absolutely atrocious. I'm so confused. For a night shift at a hotel? This is heading towards what's called constructive dismissal in the UK. The management want OOP out, so they're amending the rulebook to include things that are basically aimed just at her. I'm guessing they've changed their mind about those facial piercings. She needs to leave before they push her. Just as an FYI that is vaguely related to this post, you can get hair dye off your skin with Blue Cross cuticle remover. Just put some on a cotton pad and wipe, and then rinse it off. You can use water in a spray bottle or on a cloth. Just make sure to dilute and remove as much of the remover as possible, because it is caustic. Yes, I know that's not really what the post is about, but I felt like sharing that for posterity. In the meantime, I think OOP really should just look for a different job. It's clear they're trying to get rid of her. An employment lawyer might not be out of the question, given that they're not allowing a dinner break. They are trying to get OOP to quit. Why hire someone that looks alternative, and presumably turned up to the interview dressed that way, if you don't want them to look alternative at your workplace? I hope OP gets pants that look like a skirt. They don't own pants?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.